Hello and welcome to Saturday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we're going to be trying the puzzle on the screen, which is by Jovial. Now, I've got two things to tell you about this puzzle. Firstly, we've had it recommended, I think, 12 times, no less, since this was released on Logic Masters Germany just 6 days ago. So basically, people are saying this is a wonderful, wonderful Sudoku. And quite excitingly, the second thing to tell you about it is it's apparently approachable, genuinely approachable. So we do try and cater for the whole range of difficulty on the channel, but often it must seem like we're sort of aiming at the very high end. Well, today I hope the main difficulty with this one is going to be Maverick and Hornet related rather than Sudoku related. But we shall see. It's called Some Sets Sudoku. Now, if you do enjoy today's puzzle, it's just a handful of days. It really is just a handful of days until Jovial's Sudoku Extravaganza will be released for our patrons over on Patreon. This is 20 Sudokus where basically you have to solve one after the other until you get to number 20. Solve number 20 and then you'll be eligible for a very, very cool prize, which I'm almost allowed to tell you about, but not quite. And all of the puzzles are sort of themed on standard Sudoku variants and all designed to be both elegant and achievable. So we're really looking forward to seeing the feedback on that. If you haven't joined us on Patreon yet, please consider it. I'll try and put a link on the screen there right now. Before I read you the rules to this one, I have a quick question as well. Some people have been asking us to stream. Now, streaming is not something we have any experience of at all, as you'll know, and I suspect this is the first computer I've ever owned that, in theory at least, is capable of streaming. And I've been toying with the idea, only toying, mind you, with the idea of streaming an attempt at a game like The Witness, which I gather is a very fine puzzle game, and I've always wanted to play it, but I've never been able to because I've never had a computer that could run it until now. So is this idea interesting? We are not sure, but if we get lots of comments saying we should do it, then we will listen. That was a funny noise that came out of my mouth. So do tell us, is that something we should do or shouldn't do? Let us know. Now, what are the rules of Jovial's puzzle? I'll read them to you. They are very short today. The opposite of yesterday, therefore. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits cannot repeat within a cage. All marked cages have a different sum. And that's it. So that means every single one of these cages in the grid, so that one, let's say that one adds up to 32, then I'm just trying to see another cage that could in theory add up to 32. That one could not add up to 32. That would have to add up to a different number. And that's it. Look, we've even got given digits in this. It's an absolute bonus. So do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video, as usual. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now, all the cages have different sums. So have we got... I'm seeing several single cell cages here. How many of those have we got? 4, 5, 6... 7, 8. Well, we've got 9 arranged in a very nice pattern in the grid. I'm going to highlight those straight away because we now know that that's effectively a disjoint set. What do I mean by that? Well, I know that the purple squares have to contain all of the digits from 1 to 9 once each, because there's no way I can put sort of, I don't know, an 8 in there and an 8 in there, because then those cages will definitely have the same sum. So that's immediately interesting, and I'm wondering whether we can go further then with the 2 cell cages. How many of those have we got? We've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, yes, that's perfect. So we've got 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Right, well, that's exactly what we need. Why do I say that? Well, let's think about this. We know that the totals 1 to 9 are being dealt with by the purples. So the minimum number I could put into any of the green cages would be a digit summing to 10. But the maximum I can make a domino add up to in a Sudoku would be 17 with an 8 and a 9. And that means that these green cages, because there are 8 of them, must add up to 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17. Now, can we keep going, I'm asking now. So we've got 3 cell cages. I can see some of those. We've got... we've only got 4 3-cell cages. Now, a 3-cell cage in theory could add to 24 if it was 7, 8 and 9. And we know it must add up to more than 17 because 17 and anything less than that is dealt with by the purples and the greens. So unfortunately, I think we don't actually know. Although I'm now thinking about the central box. Hang on, yeah, because if these 3 digits here have to sum up to at least 18, and those 3 digits there have to sum up to at least 18, and they can't both sum up to 18 because we have to have different sums, the minimum these can sum up to is an 18 plus a 19, which is 37, and that means we can use the secret. What is the secret of Sudoku, you may be asking? Well, think about any complete row, column or box of a Sudoku. What do we know a correct solution to that will contain? Well, a complete box will contain the digits 1 to 9. Add up the digits 1 to 9, you get 45. 45 is absolutely the magic number. So if we know that those squares add up to 45, but we know those 6 squares there add up to at least 37, these 3 squares add up to a maximum of 8. What do we know about 8 in 3 cells if we can't repeat a digit? It must have a 1 in it. Oh, I was just wondering if we could use the dominoes there, but we can't quite. It's possible that the 1... You can put a 1 in a domino because it could be accompanied by a 9. 1 and 9 would give 10, which is just enough to be a domino. I was wondering whether we can't do anything with 2, because 2 could in theory go in one of the 3-cell cages and still add up to 18 or indeed 19. We've got 2 symmetrically given 6-cell cages as well. I mean, in fact, we should just admire. If we just stop for a moment, I'm noticing that the puzzle is completely symmetrical. It's got symmetrical givens. It's got symmetrical dispositions of all cages as well. That is incredible. Wow. Now, I can't do any Sudoku. I'm assuming I can't do Sudoku. That would seem unlikely. 2 has to be in one of those squares. We have 2 4s in the grid. Don't think they're doing anything though. We've got 2 5s in the grid. Oh, I see. Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. How on earth did I not spot that instantly? But I didn't. Right. Sorry. I suspect some of you have been muttering under your breaths only at me for the last 8.5 minutes. That's really clever. That's just really clever. Okay, the magic digit is 5. Where does 5 go in this grid? And in particular, where does 5 go in the purple squares? Now, I don't know why I couldn't see this, but I think I'm right in saying that 5... These 2 given 5s see 8 of the purple cells. They definitely see those. Yeah, they do. That's really strange. But that means which purple cell contains the 5? It's this one, and that's huge. That is immediately huge because we know those 3 squares have a maximum value of 8. So now they actually do have a value of 8 because we can't make these squares less than 1 and 2. Oh, I see. Right, I was suddenly wondering what on earth I was going to put into those 2 squares, but the answer is they have to both be 9. So one of these dominoes adds to 10 and one of them adds to 11 in order that we keep them at a different size. This is absolutely gorgeous. It really is. So, I was just wondering about 9s in the purples. Look, now we've got 9 seeing 4 of the purples, which means 9 must be in one of the outer purples. I'm not sure if that means anything. And the other thing we know now is that one of these cages does add up to 18 and one of them does add up to 19. I'm not sure what that means. And we've got 10 and 11 in the 2-cell cages. Okay. Here is a small point. Let's think about the large 2-cell cages, by which I mean the 17 and the 16. And the reason I want to think about those is that I know something about a 17 cage and I know something about a 16 cage. They both contain a 9. Now these 9s are ruling out 9s from these dominoes. So that means I have to put a 9 in one of these squares and I have to put a 9 in one of those squares, because what I cannot do is put the 17 cage and the 16 cage in the same box of the Sudoku, or I will have 2 9s in that box. So one of these... this is so clever. This is really ridiculously clever. Okay, we've thought about 17, we've thought about 16. Let's think about 15. Where's 15 go in this grid? Where does the domino that sums to 15 go? And what characteristics does it have? Because we now know that it must... Well, we know it cannot contain a 9. Because we know the 9s have been hypothecated for the 17 and the 16, and these 9s are ruling out putting 9s in those dominoes. So the 15 must be an 8-7 cage. And then the question is, where does it go? Now, this is really interesting because I don't know where the 16 and the 17 cage go yet. I don't think it matters. Let me show you why. Let's imagine that the 17 cage was up here. So there would be an 8-9 in one of these dominoes. And the 16 cage was down here. Let's just make it this one for the sake of argument. But now, which you can see that you cannot put the 15 cage up here or down here, because the 7 is not available for the 7-8 pair down here, and the 8 is not available for the 8-7 pair up there. And if I swap the 8-9 down here and put the 7-9 up here, the logic would hold. It would still work. It would still prevent you from putting a 15 cage in any of those squares. So in other words, the 15 cage, the 8-7 cage, is either here or here. Well, one place it's not is where there's an 8 in its column. So that, I think, is a 7-8 pair. No, it's a 7-8 pair. And that's just ridiculous. I'm actually wondering what that is then. Oh, yeah, hang on, that's not a stupid question. Because we know this can't be 17, 16 or 15. It can't be 14 because it can't be 5, 9 or 6, 8. It can't be 13 for the same reason. It can't be 6, 7, 5, 8 or 4, 9. So it has to be 12 because we know that 10 and 11 are in those squares. This is 12. It's not 3, 9 or 4, 8. That's 5, 7. There's a 5 here. That's lovely. 5 and 7 go in the grid. 7 sorts out that 7, 8 pair on the left. 7 is now in that domino up here. Does that mean you can't put the 9 in with it? If you put the 9 in with it, you'd have 16. What do these add up to again? They add up to 18 and 19. Oh, you could still have... No, you could still have 9, 7 and 3. That would just work and get you to a valid total. You couldn't have 9, 7 and 2 because the 2's in one of those squares. 5 by Sudoku goes here. Look, let's not neglect normal Sudoku. Can't see if I can do anything else though. What else can we do? Maybe we keep going down the... So I've got 12, I've got 15. I haven't thought about 14. I haven't thought about 13. Ah, yeah, okay. Okay, there's some simple logic there then. What you cannot do, let's imagine there's an 8, 9 up here. 8 and 9 add to 17. What you cannot do is then put the 14 in with that as well. And one way to think about that is that 14 plus 17 is 31, and you cannot make 4 cells in a Sudoku if they all have to be different digits add up to 31, because 9 plus 8 plus 7 plus 6 only add up to 30. So, wherever the 9, 8 goes, it must have the 13 with it. And that must be 6, 7. So one of these combinations is a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple. And the other one will have a 9, 7 pair, 16. Oh, 16 and 14, that also adds to the... Ah, right, sorry. So it doesn't matter which way round we go with this. Let's do it longhand. Let's imagine this was 7, 9. Then we know the 7, 9 from the logic I was just talking about must accompany the 14. Now the only way of making 14 if you can't use 9 is with 6, 8. So in other words, the 7, 9 has definitely got a 6, 8 with it, and that creates a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple. Now the 8, 9 on the other hand is going to have the 6, 7 with it, adding up to 13, and again that's a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple. So both of these are 6, 7, 8s and 9s. Now we can see we can rule 6 out from that one. So there's a 6. Whoa. There's a 6 in this domino. There's no 8 in this domino, which means there's an 8 in that domino. Which means that I don't know. What does it mean? 5? Oh, look, 5 is restricted in box 3. It's got to be in the 3-cell cage. Do we know what these 3-cell cages add up to? Or was that open-ended? We know what those two add up to. Those add up to 18 and 19. So these have to add up to at least 20. Ah, that one has to add up to at least 20, and I've placed the 5 in it. So these two squares have to add up to at least 15, so they've got to be selected from 6, 7s, 8s and 9s. That can't be an 8. 6, 7, 9 triple in the row. We'll take that, which means the rest of this row is 1s, 3s and 5s. And okay, where does the 5 go? In row 8 of the grid, it can only go here, because I've got a 5 here and a 5 here, which means those two squares are a 1, 3 pair. This 5 is meaning nothing. There's a 5 up there now. How many 5s have I got? Lots. Yeah, okay. By Sudoku, that's a 5. Because there are 4 5s looking at box 7. Whenever you get 4 of a digit looking at a box, you can always fill it in that box. So we're just left with this sort of X-wing on 5s in boxes 2 and 3. And similarly here, therefore, I've got a 5 in here. This has got to add up to at least 20. So the other two digits add up to at least 15. That means this square has to be selected from 6, 7, 8 and 9, and it can't be 7 or 9. So that's a 6 or an 8. Okay, now I'm getting stuck by the... I'm afraid. This is the worry now. 8s are on the inner ring of purples. I've got 8s here and here, so we can rule 8 out of all these squares, which means there has to be an 8 in one of those 3 cells. 6, 7s, 8s, and... Aha! I have you now. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Where does 6, 7, 8, and 9 go? In, well, at least this column and possibly this column. Although this column I can see it more clearly. Where does 6, 7, 8, 9 go in this column? given we've got quadruples, you can't put 6, 7s, 8s and 9s in those squares. Now that means those two squares have to be 6, 7s, 8s and 9s in order to give me the valid number of 6, 7s, 8s and 9s in column 4, because there must be one of each of those digits. So those squares are going to be restricted. Let's just have a look at what that means. That means that's not 9. This is not 7 or 8 by Sudoku. I'm almost wondering if this is a... Does this mean this is a high-low puzzle? Am I meant to be... I'm wondering whether I'm meant to be colouring low digits and high digits now. I'm not sure. Because I could now colour all of these squares as having to be 5 or less. Is that going to be helpful? I'm not sure. If I get stuck, I'm definitely doing that though. Let's look at this cage. I've now got a minimum of 13 in those two digits, and this cage adds up to a maximum of 19. Oh, right, simple. Where does the 7 go then? If the 7 has to be in one of those two squares, it can't be here, because then these squares together would have to add up to at least 21, and we know that these cages add up to 18 and 19 respectively, and we don't know the order, but we definitely know they don't add up to 21. So this is not 7. This is 7, which means that's not 7. That's not 7. I've got a 6, 9 pair in the column, so this has become an 8. Get rid of 8 from all those squares. I've now got a... is that true? I've now got a 7, 9 pair here. I suppose it is. This 8 and 6 are operating. So now we know that that square's a 6. And we know that down here we've got to have an 8, 9 pair and a 6, 7 pair. Now where's the 8, 9 pair going down here? It's got to be in the bottom row. That's lovely. So that's 8, 9. This is 6, 7. There's only one way round that works. That's become a 9 out of nowhere. This 7 is giving us a 7, 9 in this column. That's giving us a 9 and an 8 down here. This cage adds up to... It doesn't add up to 18. It can't have a 2 in it. So it's got to be the 19. This is 19. This square is a 3. And now those squares... Yeah, these squares have got to be 4, 6 and 8 to complete the box. And why is that interesting? Well, there's a 6 and an 8 already in column 5, so that's a 4. This 8 sees this square, and that means we've suddenly finished almost all of box 5. 8 by Sudoku goes there. This cage now has 13 in it, and it needs to be at least 20, doesn't it? So this is a minimum of 5, 7, because we know it's got a 5 in it, and it can't have an 8 in it, so it's 5, 7 or 5, 9. And this square is a given then. That square's got to be 5, which means that's 5. And suddenly it's all going well today. This... Okay, no, we don't know what that is. Now, what about row 2 then? I need 1s, 3s and 8s. Oh, okay, I thought I might be able to get that, but I don't think I can. That's not 8. That seems to be able to be 8, and that one seems to be able to be 8. So that's worth a bobbins, I think. Do we know the order of these? We know one's 10, one's 11. Maybe not. I feel like we know a lot about some digits now. 9s, we seem to have a lot of 9s in the grid, although... Yeah, oh, nearly. Oh, where does 9 go in the purple? We can now rule it out of all but this square and this square. That's very irritating. What about... I don't know, let's try 8s. I seem to have a lot of those as well. 8. I've got to put... Yeah, I've got to put 8s in the purples as well. But I think, probably wrong about this, I think there are still 3 places 8 could go in the purple. I think it's these 3 squares. 8s are definitely locked into one of those 2 squares in box 7. Now 7s. Again, all of the big digits seem to be occupying a sort of, this sort of cross shape that we've got going through the middle of the grid like this, which is not doing me favours in terms of working out where they go in boxes 1, 3, 7 and 9. Okay. That can't be 7 anymore. Let's try and tidy. That's just a given. Look, that can't be 6 either. That's a 9. So these 2 add up to 14. So we can have a 6 here because these can add up to 20. So this is 6, 7 or 8. Now this 9, is that doing anything for us? That's locking a 9 in one of those 2 squares, which is not good enough. I'm going to get rid of that 9 pencil mark because it's going to, I think I'm going to confuse myself. So where do we go from here? Right, I've got a 1-2 pair to place in row and column 5. That might be useful. Which means 4, look, has to be in one of those squares in box 2. Which means 4 has to be in one of these squares in box 8. 4's in the grid. No, that's not helping. What about 3 in box 4 has to be in this domino by Sudoku. That's the world's most useless deduction, isn't it? Oh, 4. What about 4 in box 6? I think it has to be there by Sudoku. That's not such a useless deduction because that's actually a digit. 4's in one of those squares. This is a 1, 2, 3 triple. We know that's not a 3, so we've got this one down to a 1 or a 2 now. We know this cage. This cage adds up to 16 because that's the digits I've got to put in these 5 cells, plus whatever I put in that square. And we know that this... We know it's got to add up to at least 20. I don't think it's going to be 20, but I suppose it could be if one of these doesn't take the 20. So let's if this was... No, it can't be. Actually, it can't be 20 because that would require us to put a 4 here. This digit is restricted then. This can't be 4, 5. So this has got to be 6, 7 or 9, I think. Oh, it can't be 6, can it? Because, of course, the 6 is already in one of those squares. This is just... Oh, I've got a 7, 9 pair in column 8 now, out of absolutely nowhere. So now I need 1s, 2s, 3s and 6s. So this square is a 1, 2 or a 3. It doesn't quite go through the grid the way I thought it might. Bother. No, sorry. Now that's interesting. Let's use the symmetry to our advantage now. Because these squares are also 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6. Now why is that interesting to me? Well, that's telling me this little digit here and that little digit there cannot be the same digit. Because if they were the same digit, this cage would add up to exactly the same number as this cage because it's got the same 5 digits in these positions. So what can this be? Is it exactly the same? We've got 16 there. It definitely can't be a 4. It would repeat the 4. It can't be a 5. It can't be a 6. It would repeat the 6. So this is 7 or 8. So what you can't have here is a 7 and a 7. Oh, right, that's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. So if you can't have double 7 here, and you can't because the cages will add up to the same number, you can't even put 7 in there. Because if you put 7 in here, that will be a 9, and that will be a 7 by the power of old Sudoku. That is really clever. That is absolutely beautiful. So this is an 8. I know what this is going to do. I know what this is going to do. But let's just deal. In fact, it's done it by Sudoku. But I remembered that one of those 3 squares was the only places in purple I could put 8, and now we can actually see it in box 7 by Sudoku. This is the only place the 8 can actually go. So we got that deduction a different way. I've got a 1-3 pair here, so that's going to be an 8. How many 8? I must have done all the 8s. I have done all the 8s. Well done, me. So this cage now adds up to 16 and 8, which is 24. That can't add up to 24. That can't add up to 24. Right, okay, so we don't actually know much more as a result of that, I don't think. So what else have we learnt as a result of that little expedition with 8s? Have we learnt anything? We got an 8 here, didn't we? Are there any other digits that are particularly... Oh, we got a 1-3 pair. Oh, right. Hang on. I was going to say I got a 1-3 pair here, and I've just noticed I've got a 1-3 pair in column 3. So that square's a 2, which means that's not a 2. And this 2 looks gorgeous because it sees that square, which comes back over here and sees that square. Does it keep going or does it stop? Well, I'm not sure is the answer, but what I can see now is that those squares have to be 1, 4 and 6 in box 4, and that means that square's become a 2, which means that square's at 1, and it does keep going, because now that's got to be a 3, that's got to be a 1, that's got to be a 3, that's got to be a 1. Good grief. Now these squares are now 2s, 3s and 6s. That's not a 6. That's not a 4. And that, no, that I was thinking that was a 2, and it is a 2, but I was thinking it somehow impacted on a cell that could only be 1, 4 and 6, which it can't. Okay, so we've got a little bit of traction there. In fact, we've got more traction by the power of Sudoku, because this 2 has to go somewhere in box 2. It has to go there, which places a 1 here. So 1 is in one of those squares. 2, there's a 2-4 pair in box 8, which means this square's become a 3, which is almost beautiful. And these squares now have got to be a 1-4 pair. Okay. And what can we do with that? Suddenly a lot of the grid has actually got filled in. I've still got these 3 cell cages to do. I've still got this cell to do. And I've still got to think about the single cell disjoint sets. So all of the purple cells. 6s, are they restricted? I don't know is the answer. I'm not seeing anything as I scan that. What about this column? I've got lots of given digits. I need 4s, 6s and 7s. Bother, I don't think I can do that. 4, 6 and 7. I mean, I know that. No, it doesn't quite work, does it? 4. 4 by Sudoku has to be in one of those squares. That's not a straightforward step, but I think I've just spotted something as a result of that. I have spotted something as a result of that. Right, these 4s are now very, very interesting, because let's ask the question where 4 goes in the purple. Now, I think I'm right in saying This 4 is taking care of those 3. So you can't put 4 in anything on the left-hand side of the grid. You can't put 4 in the cell that has 5 in it. You can't put 4 in those 2 squares, and you can't put 4 here. Good grief. So this is the only cell that can be a 4. I didn't spot that for ages, but now I have. And that means that's a 4 and that's a 1, which means that's a 1 by Sudoku. So in fact there was sort of a funny 1-4 deadly pattern there that was resolved by the fact we needed to put a 4 in a purple, which is very clever. So have we done all the 4s now? No, it seems not. Okay. Have we done all the 1s? Virtually. Again, we've got a little X-wing on 1s left. Oh, I know what we've done. You know what we've done when we put the 4 in here? Let's ask the question now where 9 goes in the purple, because it's got to go here, because we had it pencil marked into those 2 squares for some of this puzzle. So that's a 9, which does... Oh no, I was about to malign it unfairly and accuse it of doing nothing, but it does do something, because it puts 9 here. And that places 7 here. So this cage is adding up to 16 and 7, which is 23. That cage adds up to 22. So this cage must not add up to any of those digits. It can't add up to 22, 23 or 24, and of course it never could. Because this being a 6 or a 7 means it either adds up to 20 or 21. In fact, we know what it adds up to. There's a 7 there. So it adds up to 20. And I think we now have all of the cage totals determined. That's a 6 by Sudoku. That's a 6 by Sudoku. There's a 2-3 pair in this column. Have we done all the 6s? No. But maybe we can in a moment. Yeah, I mean 6 is in one of those squares, but I don't know which one. Okay, let's have another stare. We need 2s, 3s and 7s into this box. So this is a 3 or a 7. This is 2, 3 or 7, and this is 3 or 7. Ah, that's the naked single. Look at this square. It's got to be 2, 3 or 7 from the row. It sees 2 and 3 in the column. So that's a 7. That's a 6, which places the 6 here, which gives us a 4, gives us a 1, places a 1 in the purple. This square is now a given. That should be a 3. I've got lots of 3s all of a sudden. That's got to be a 3 by Sudoku. That's in the purple, so that can't repeat in the purple. That's got to be a 7. That's a 3. Ah, that's a 2. That's a 2. That's a 3. Should have all the 3s now. I think we're on the home stretch, aren't we? We need 2s and 9s there, so that's a 2, that's a 9, that's a 2, that's a 4. This has got to be a 7. It's just a naked single, and that should be a something, a thingamy, a 4. And we click that. So that is, I think, the correct solution. Yes, what a brilliant puzzle. That is just beautiful. Now let's just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, there's just an incredible amount to admire in this puzzle. So, I mean, the starting deductions are fairly straightforward. The fact that there's a sort of a disjoint set of the digits 1 to 9, and that the dominoes have to take the digits from 10 to 17. But these 5s are ludicrously clever. It took me minutes and minutes and minutes to notice that this square could only be a 5. And then the logic from there was just absolutely beautiful, time after time after time. There were about 8 different gorgeous stages, and this is what you get from Jovial's puzzles. So Jovial, another masterclass. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed watching me battle through it. Let me know in the comments whether you enjoyed the puzzle, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.